I poisoned the lobster bisque at my son's rehearsal dinner. Not enough to kill, just to make her puke her guts out in front of the caterers. It was the first act of war in a vendetta that had been simmering since the day she slid that diamond on his finger, whispering promises she never meant to keep. And as she retched into the punch bowl, her perfect updo unraveling like the lies she'd spun, I smiled for the first time in months, because revenge, darling, tastes sweeter than any wedding cake. The air in the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel hung thick with the scent of tuber roses and old money, the kind of perfume that clings to your skin like regret. New York City, summer 2025. And my son Ethan's wedding to Victoria, Tori, Harrington was the event of the season, or so the society pages had breathlessly declared. I stood in the back, nursing a glass of Veuve Clicquot that I hadn't touched, watching as the string quartet sawed through Pachelbel's canon. Ethan, my boy, all 28 years of him, looked like a Ken doll in his tailored Tom Ford tux, his blonde hair slicked back just the way his father used to wear it. And Tori? She was the Barbie to end all Barbies, porcelain skin, raven hair cascading in waves, and a gown that screamed, "I own this city," without uttering a word. I was Adeline Harper, the invisible ghost in the room. No designer labels for me, just a knee-length black sheath from Macy's that I'd bought on sale. My hair, once the same honey blonde as Ethan's, was now streaked with silver and pulled into a sensible chignon. Widowed for a decade, I lived in a modest two-bedroom in Queens, scraping by on freelance editing gigs and the occasional yard sale find. Or at least, that's what they all thought. The truth, tucked away in a Vanguard account, was $53 million, inherited from my late Aunt Beatrice, a reclusive oil heiress who died without a whisper 5 years back. I'd kept it secret, buried deeper than the body of my regrets. Because in America, money talks, but silence screams louder when you're playing the long game. Ethan had begged me not to come.
Mom.
It's black tie. You know how Tori's family is. His voice had cracked over the phone from their penthouse in Tribeca, the one her daddy had bought as a starter home. I'd laughed it off, told him I'd blend into the wallpaper. But deep down, I knew why he didn't want me there. Tori had spent the engagement poisoning his ear with stories of my struggles, how I'd raised him alone after his father's tragic accident, how I'd sold the family brownstone to pay for his Ivy League tuition. Lies wrapped in half-truths. Because the brownstone sale? That was me covering for Richard's gambling debts. The ones that had spiraled out of control before he drove his Mercedes off that foggy bridge in the Hamptons. The cops called it suicide. I called it mercy. The ceremony had been a blur of episcopal pomp, vows exchanged under a floral arch that cost more than my annual rent. Tori's father, Senator Harrington, beaming like he'd just brokered world peace. I sat in the last pew, clutching my clutch like a lifeline, whispering prayers to a God who'd long since ghosted me. Ethan's eyes met mine once, a flicker of apology, but Tori's gaze? It was steel, appraising me like I was the help crashing the party.
Now.
At the reception, the toasts were in full swing. Tori's maid of honor, a Botoxed socialite named Blair, gushed about their whirlwind romance and how Tori had rescued Ethan from his artsy phase at Pratt Institute. Laughter rippled through the crowd, old wasps in pearls, tech bros with man-bun regrets, the Harrington machine in full lobbyist glory. Then it was my turn. Ethan had insisted, a nod to family tradition. I rose, legs steady despite the knot in my gut, and cleared my throat into the microphone that felt heavier than sin. To Ethan and Tori, I began, my voice steady as the Hudson on a calm day. You've built something beautiful here. A foundation stronger than the steel that holds this city up. Ethan, you've always been my light. Fierce. Kind. Unbreakable. And Tori. Welcome to the chaos. May you find in each other the grace to forgive the small hurts before they become big wounds. It was vague. Poetic enough to pass muster, but laced with the prophecy I'd scripted in my head 100 times. The room clapped politely. A smattering of here from the barflies. Ethan mouthed, "Love you, Mom," and for a heartbeat, I believed in redemption. Then Tori took the mic. She glided up like a swan on quaaludes, her gown whispering against the marble floor. "Adeline," she purred, turning to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Your words are so touching. Truly. It's inspiring. How you've managed on so little. Raising Ethan alone. Making ends meet in that little apartment in Queens. It's like something out of a Horatio Alger novel. Poor thing. But oh, so resilient." The word poor landed like a slap, amplified by the room's hush. Gasps rippled, then chuckles from the Harrington corner. Ethan's face flushed crimson, but he didn't move. Didn't defend. Just stared at his plate like it held the secrets to the universe.
Poor.
The word echoed in my skull, dredging up the nights I'd lied to Ethan about why we couldn't afford Disney World, the forged bank statements to keep child services at bay after Richard's death. Poor. When I could have bought the plaza outright and burned it for warmth. But the money wasn't mine to squander, not yet. Beatrice's will had stipulated it for charitable causes, a loophole I'd exploited to fund scholarships in Ethan's name. Anonymous drops into accounts for kids like he'd been bright, broke, betrayed by blood. Tori knew none of it. Or did she? Her eyes, those calculating blue chips, held a glint that said she'd done her homework, dug into my pitiable past like a tabloid hack chasing Kardashian dirt. I excused myself to the powder room, the laughter chasing me down the hall like hyenas on a scent. In the marble mausoleum of a bathroom, I splashed water on my face, staring at the woman in the mirror, lines etched like fault lines, eyes hollowed by a decade of what-ifs. That's when the first fracture hit. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Enjoy the show. Adeline." She's just getting started. Our Richard? Impossible. Dead men don't text. But the number traced to a burner. And attached was a photo, Tori, mid-laugh at a rooftop bar last month, arm in arm with a man who wasn't Ethan. The man? Richard's old business partner, Victor Lang, the snake who'd co-signed those debts and vanished when the checks bounced. Betrayal number 1. Tori wasn't just a gold-digging debutante. She was a player in a game I'd thought ended with Richard's splash into the drink. I'd taken the fall for his mess, forged the life insurance claim, buried the ledgers in a safety deposit box upstate, all to give Ethan a clean slate. And now, she was mocking me in Versace while cozying up to the ghost of my mistakes. By the time I returned, the dance floor was a swirl of taffeta and testosterone. Ethan pulled me aside near the dessert table, his breath reeking of bourbon.
"Mom, I'm sorry. She didn't mean it like that."
Tori's just stressed. The prenup talks. You know, prenup. Of course. The Harringtons weren't about love. They were about ledgers. I forced a smile, patted his cheek. "It's fine, baby. Weddings bring out the worst in us all. But inside, the fuse was lit." I slipped into the kitchen, where the caterers were prepping the late-night surf and turf. A vial from my clutch, ipecac syrup, pilfered from a pharmacy under a fake name, found its way into the bisque terrines destined for the Harrington table. Not lethal, just humiliating. A mother's love, twisted into petty poison. As the courses rolled out, I watched from the shadows. Tori took her first spoonful with theatrical flair, then her face contorted. She bolted for the ladies' lounge, Blair in tow, while the senator's wife dabbed her lips daintily, oblivious. Whispers started. Food poisoning? Caterer screw up? And Ethan shot me a puzzled look. I raised my glass in a silent toast. Round 1 to the underdog. But revenge isn't a sprint, it's a marathon through moral quicksand. That night, in my hotel room overlooking Central Park, I pored over the texts from R. More photos. Tori and Victor. Dates stamped back to Ethan's proposal. Emails forwarded from a hacked account, Victor promising her a severance package if the marriage tanked, citing my instability as leverage for custody. They'd been plotting to paint me as the villain, the broke grandma unfit for weekends with future grandkids. The secret? Victor knew about the inheritance. He'd been Beatrice's lawyer, the one who'd advised her to cut Richard out before the debts swallowed us whole. He'd hidden it from me, too, until her deathbed confession.
Now,
he was using Tori to flush it out, blackmail me into signing it over, or watch my son's life implode. I didn't sleep. Dawn broke over the skyline like a guilty conscience, and I knew this wedding wasn't salvation. It was the altar for my reckoning. The next morning, brunch at the Harringtons' Upper East Side manse was a farce of mimosas and migraines.
Tori,
pale as her gown, blamed the nerves, but her eyes darted to me like daggers. Senator Harrington cornered Ethan by the pool, droning about family alliances, while I sipped coffee black as my mood. Victor was there too, slinking in as a distant uncle, his paunch straining against a polo shirt that screamed Boca Raton retirement. Our eyes met across the croquet lawn, and he winked, brazen as a fox in the henhouse. Adeline. Darling, he drawled, sauntering over with a plate of scones. You look
peaked.
Rough night. I smiled. Saccharine.
Oh.
Victor. Just the ghosts of Christmases past. Speaking of, how's the yacht club membership treating you? Still dodging alimony from wife number 3. He chuckled, low and oily.
Touché.
But let's not air dirty laundry at the Lovebirds brunch. Tori tells me you're quite the storyteller. Those tales of bootstraps and bravery, pure Americana. His gaze flicked to my wrist, bare of the Cartier Richard had pawned years ago.
Poor.
Again. Implied, not spoken. I leaned in, voice a whisper. Stories end. Victor. But truths? They have sequels. He paled a fraction, then recovered with a pat on my arm. Careful, Addie. Some endings aren't happy. By afternoon,
the real work began.
Back in my room, I fired up my laptop, nothing flashy. Just a refurbished Dell that blended with the wallpaper. A few clicks into dark web forums, and I had a PI on speed dial. The kind who moonlighted for divorcees and didn't ask about probable cause. Dig into Tori Harrington and Victor Lang, I texted. Cross-reference with Richard Harper's old files. Discreet. The reply pinged back. On it. $5,000 wire? Pocket change from the fund. I transferred it, then dove into my own archives, the USB drive of Richardson's, scanned and encrypted after his death. Richard hadn't killed himself. I'd helped. Not the wheel, but the brakes, tampered just enough in that garage fog of despair. He'd begged me, tears streaming, "End it."
Addie.
For Ethan.
The debts.
Victor's coming for everything. I'd nodded, numb, and done it. Manslaughter. They'd call it if the truth surfaced. But I'd shouldered it alone, confessing nothing, burying the car's black box in a Jersey landfill. Tori and Victor? They had fragments, enough to threaten exposure if I didn't cough up Beatrice's fortune. The PI's first report landed at dusk. Tori wasn't just Victor's pawn, she was his daughter. Illegitimate, born from a fling in the senator's D.C. days. Daddy Dearest had covered it up with hush money. But Victor? He'd raised her in shadows, grooming her for takedowns like this. Ethan was collateral, the mark to bleed me dry. Betrayal layered like milfy. My son. Unwitting dupe in his own marriage. That evening, as guests milled for cocktail hour, I cornered Tori in the coatroom. The air smelled of mothballs and Chanel No.
5.
We need to talk, I said, door clicking shut behind us. She arched a brow, flawless as a Photoshop filter. Adeline. To what do I owe the pleasure? Come to beg for a spot in the family trust. I stepped closer, close enough to smell her fear under the perfume. I know about Victor. And the texts. You think you can play me like one of your daddy's PAC donors? Push me into the corner. Call me poor to flush out the cash. Her laugh was brittle, a debutante's defense.
Oh.
Honey. You're delusional. Victor's just a family friend. And that money, if it exists, it's not yours to hoard. Ethan deserves better than your frugality. Frugality, I hissed, grabbing her wrist, gentle, but firm. I've bled for that boy. Covered sins you can't imagine. You waltz in with your trust fund tantrums. And now you're the victim? Let's see how the senator likes his skeletons dancing at the altar. She yanked free, eyes blazing. Touch me again, and I'll have you arrested for assault.
Poor.
Desperate Adeline, always the martyr. She flounced out, leaving me with the echo of her heels and a resolve hardening like concrete. Round 2, the bouquet toss. I'd slipped a note into Tori's clutch earlier. Via a bribed bridesmaid, meet me on the terrace at 9 p.m. Or the photos go viral. The terrace overlooked the park, city lights twinkling like distant gunfire. She arrived fashionably late, Ethan none the wiser, chasing shots with the groomsmen. What do you want? She snapped, arms crossed over her lace bodice. Out, I said simply. Walk away from the marriage. I'll wire you $1 million, starter cash for your independent life. Victor gets nothing. She scoffed. You think I'm for sale? Like some queen's hooker? The slur stung. But I held steady.
No.
I think you're cornered. Like Richard was. Ask Victor about the bridge. Ask him why I never pressed charges. Her face drained of color. You're bluffing. Test me. Wind whipped her veil. And for a moment, she looked human, scared. Small. Then the mask snapped back. Screw you.
Adeline. Etan's mine.
And that money? We'll get it one way or another. She stormed off, but the seed was planted. Doubt. The great equalizer. As the night wore on, the band struck up at last, and Ethan pulled me onto the floor for the mother-son dance. His arms were strong, like Richard's had been before the bottle one.
Mom.
You okay? Tori was out of line. I swallowed the lump. Water under the bridge.
Kiddo.
Just promise me you'll fight for what's real. He nodded. Earnest. Always. But as we swayed, I spotted Victor in the booth. Phone to ear. Nodding furiously. The call was coming for me. The hangover from the wedding hit like a freight train out of Penn Station, pounding temples. A mouth like sandpaper. And a conscience that wouldn't shut up. I'd checked out of the plaza at dawn, cabbing it back to Queens before the cleanup crew could find the vile shards I'd flushed. My apartment was a time capsule, faded photos of Ethan in Little League, Richard's old law books gathering dust, a fern named Beatrice wilting on the sill. Home sweet home, the facade I'd built brick by bitter brick. The PI's next dump arrived via encrypted email as I brewed Folgers strong enough to strip paint. Attachments, wire transfers from Victor to Tori's offshore account, time-stamped to their dates. One stood out, a $250,000 lump sum. Memo line reading contingency for H. Exposure. H for Harrington. Tori wasn't just in it for the prenup. She was leveraging her own paternity for leverage. The senator's clean image? Built on burying bastards like her. Victor, the puppeteer, dangled the DNA test like a noose. Pay up. Or the headline scream, Senator's secret spawn weds for cover. Deeper in the files, Richard's ledgers. Digitized from a safety deposit box I'd cracked open last night. Forged signatures. Cooked books, Victor's hand in every line. He'd siphoned the partnership dry, leaving Richard to drown in IOUs. My mercy kill? Not just love, it was justice deferred.
But now,
with Tori in the mix, it felt like a loop closing on my neck. I needed allies. First call, Marlene, my old sorority sister from Vassar. Now a shark at a midtown firm specializing in matrimonial warfare. Addie? Holy shit. It's been eons. Spill. What's the crisis du jour? Overburnt toast. I laid it out, minus the poison, plus the pathos. Ethan's marrying into a viper's nest.
March.
The bride's playing me for a fool. And her uncle is the devil who ruined us. She whistled low. Victor Lang? That sleaze? I've buried 3 clients under his bullshit. Send me the docs. I'll draft a cease and desist that'll make his Rolex weep. By noon. The letter was en route, certified mail to Victor's Palm Beach condo. CC to the senator. Cease all contact and extortionate activities regarding the estate of Beatrice Whitmore, or face litigation for fraud, conspiracy, and defamation. Bluffs stacked high, but they'd buy time. Ethan called mid-afternoon, voice thick with newlywed glow.
Mom.
Honeymoon's off to Turks and Caicos tomorrow. Tori's parents hooked us up with a 4 Seasons. You should see the villa, it's insane. I forced cheer. Sounds like paradise. Baby. Treat her right. Okay? And call your old lady when you land. A pause. Then, about last night. I talked to her. She feels awful. Said it came out wrong. Liar. But I played along. Forgiven. Go make memories. Hanging up. I pictured them. Tangled sheets. Salt-rimmed margaritas. Tori's lies dissolving in the surf. Or not. The PI had tailed them to a pre-wedding spa day in the Hamptons, Victor's summer pile. Not some neutral ground. Photos showed Tori emerging teary-eyed. Victor clapping her shoulder like a proud papa. Rage boiled. But I channeled it. Next move, the money. I logged into Vanguard, fingers trembling over the transfer button. $53 million, oil royalties from Texas Wildcats Beatrice had snatched in the 80s. Diversified into blue chips and green energy before ESG was a buzzword. I doled it out in shadows. $2 million to Ethan's art school. Funneled through a foundation. $1.50 to single moms shelters in Brooklyn. Anonymous checks with notes saying rise. But the bulk sat. A dragon's hoard waiting for the spark. I initiated a wire. $10 million to a new LLC. Harper Legacy Holdings. Shell Company. Delaware registered. Untraceable for now. Marlene's paralegal had set it up overnight. Purpose? Leverage. If Tori wanted poor Adeline, I'd give her rich Adeline's ghost, bait to draw the sharks. Evening fell with a knock. Unexpected.
Urgent.
I peered through the peephole. Victor, in chinos and a guayabera, looking like a retiree fleeing a timeshare pitch. Adeline. Open up. We need to parley. Heart hammering. I unchained the door. To what do I owe the house call?
Vic?
Craving authentic Queen's cuisine. He brushed past, scanning the living room like a cop on a bust. Cut the sass. That letter? Amateur hour. You think a C&D scares me? I wrote the book on those. I poured scotch, Richard's dash, untouched, and slid him a glass. Then why the visit? Afraid of flying coach back to Florida? He sipped.
Winced.
Tori's upset. The wedding jitters. The bisque bullshit. Coincidence. I'm sure. But she's family now. Ethan's a good kid. Doesn't deserve the drama. Family, I echoed. Tasting bile. Like you were to Richard? Bleeding him dry while he begged for scraps. Victor's eyes narrowed. The bonhomie cracking. Ancient history. Your hubby was a mark, weak, sentimental. You, smarter than that. Sign over the Whitmore pot, and we all sail into the sunset. Ethan gets a trust. Tori chills. I disappear to the Caymans. I laughed. Sharp as broken glass. And the bridge? The tampering? You've got the dashcam footage. Don't you? Blackmail bingo. He leaned in, breath sour. Insurance policy. Richard was my golden goose, until he clucked out. You finished the job.
Addie.
Accomplice makes two. Walk away rich. Or we drag Ethan into the muck. Paternity suits. Fraud raps, the works. The room spun. But I held the wall. You bastard. Tori's your get. Insurance on the senator's silence. Bright girl. That one. He grinned. Wolfish. Raised her to spot suckers. Ethan smitten, you're the obstacle. I set my glass down. Deliberate. Get out. And tell your spawn. The game's changed. He left with a shrug. But I saw the sweat on his collar. Victory tasted like cheap whiskey. That night, I dreamed of the bridge, fog rolling off the water like cigarette smoke. Richard's hands on the wheel, mine on the hood. Do it, he'd whispered. For us. I woke sweating. The sheets twisted like restraints. Dawn brought Marlene's update. The C&D had Victor's lawyer scrambling, Senator's office inquiring discreetly about the girl's background. Honeymoon Eve. Ethan texted a selfie. Him and Tori on a yacht. Her head on his shoulder. Caption bliss. I replied hearts. Then forwarded the PI's latest. Victor chartering a jet to Providentials. Same island as the villa. Coincidence?
Hell no.
I booked my own flight. Coach. Naturally. Revenge required proximity. Touching down in Turks. The air was a slap of turquoise and humidity, the kind that makes your sins stick. The Four Seasons loomed like a billionaire's fever dream, infinity pools bleeding into the sea. Cabanas that cost more per night than my mortgage. I checked into a budget dive in Grace Bay, the kind with roaches the size of chihuahuas, and rented a Vespa, undercover mom on a mission. Staking out the villa was child's play, resort staff greased with 20s from the petty cash. By sunset, I was perched in palms, binoculars trained on the private dock. Ethan snorkeling, oblivious. Tori sunning topless, bold, or bait, and Victor arriving via speedboat, bottle of Cristal in hand. They convened at dusk, torchlit dinner on the terrace, laughter carrying on the breeze. I crept closer, phone recording audio through a directional mic app. Fragments. Adeline's bluffing.
Daddy.
The money's hers to hoard. Victor. Patience. Princess. The kid cracks first, guilt's a bitch. Tori. What if she tells him about the bridge? Laughter. Then, let her. We've got the tape. Manslaughter mommy, bye-bye custody. My blood ran cold as conch chowder. They were flipping the script, me as the monster, them as saviors. Ethan. Fed the narrative. Would side with the wife. Polarizing perfection, no heroes. Just survivors clawing for the high ground. Round 3. Escalation. I hacked the villa's smart system. Basic phishing email to the concierge. Password Tori forever. Lights flickered. Music blared Sinatra at 3 a.m. AC cranked to Arctic. Chaos ensued. Ethan stumbling out in boxers. Tori shrieking about ghosts. Victor, ever the fixer, blamed island hackers. But the real strike, a drone delivery at dawn. Attached to the villa gate, a manila envelope, courtesy of my PI's island contact. Inside, prints of the photos, plus a USB of Richard's confession audio, pulled from the black box I'd thought destroyed.
Adeline.
I can't. Do it for Ethan. Victor's face when he opened it? Priceless. Via hidden cam in the wrapping. Panic rippled. Tori called Ethan at the spa, voice quivering. Baby, something's wrong. Your mom. She's here. He rushed back, confusion etching his brow. I watched from afar, heart splintering. Time to face the music. I showed up at the villa unannounced, sundress billowing like a white flag of truce. The gate buzzed open, hacked. Again. Ethan met me at the door, towel around his waist, eyes wide. Mom? What the hell? Family meeting, I said, breezing past. Tori and Victor froze on the lanai, mimosas midway to lips. Adeline, Victor growled. This is trespassing. On your lies?
No.
I tossed the envelope on the table. Play it. The audio crackled. Richard's plea. My silence. Ethan paled.
What
is this? Tori jumped in, tears on cue. She's unhinged. Ethan sent poison to the dinner. Now this, trying to sabotage us. Poison. He whirled on me. Mom, I met his gaze. Steady. Just enough to make her think twice. Like you should. Victor snatched the drive.
Fake.
Deep fake bullshit. But Ethan's face stout dawning.
Why?
Mom, why all this? Because they're using you. Baby. Victor ruined your dad. Tori's his daughter, your father-in-law's dirty secret. The inheritance? They wanted to bury the truth. Tori sobbed, collapsing into Victor's arms. She's lying. I love you. Ethan, he wavered. Torn love versus legacy. The air crackled, tension thick as storm clouds rolling in from the Atlantic. Choose, I said softly. But know this, I did it for you. Always. He looked between us. Wife. Mentor. Mother. The silence stretched, a chasm widening. Then, thunder. The storm broke over Providentials like divine judgment, sheets of rain lashing the villa's verandas. Wind howling through palm fronds like the wail of damned souls. Ethan stood there, dripping from the downpour he'd chased in from the beach, his world fracturing under the weight of revelations. Tori clung to Victor, her makeup streaking like war paint, while I held my ground. The envelope's contents splayed on the wicker table like a dealer's hand in a rigged poker game. Ethan, listen, Tori started, voice pitching high, the damsel routine cracking at the edges. No, he held up a hand, water sluicing from his hair. Just stop. All of you.
His eyes.
So like Richard's storm gray. Searching, locked on mine.
Mom.
The bridge.
Dad.
You. Helped him. The question hung. A guillotine blade mid-swing. Lies would have been easy, deny, deflect, dissolve into tears. But this was Ethan. My blood. The reason I'd traded my soul for silence. Yes, I whispered, the admission tasting like salt spray. He was drowning debts, despair. Victor's noose. He begged me, said it was the only way to keep you safe.
I
loosened the tether. Not murder. Mercy. Victor snorted, rain pattering on his guayabera. Mercy? That's accessory after the fact.
Addie.
10 to 20 in federal. Easy. And with the Whitmore windfall, obstruction of justice, cherry on top. Shut up, Ethan roared, startling us all. He rounded on Victor, fists clenched. You preyed on him. My dad. For what? Yacht payments? This. He swept an arm at the opulence, the infinity pool churning in the gale. The ocean beyond roiling like my gut. Tori stepped forward, rain-matted hair framing her face in tragic curls. Baby, she's manipulating you. I didn't know about any of it. Victor's just protective. Like a dad. The word landed soft, insidious. But Ethan flinched.
Dad.
He laughed. Bitter. You mean the one who shipped you off to boarding school so Senator Smiles could play family man? The PI files, Mom showed me. The transfers. You're not rescuing me. You're running a con. She recoiled, genuine hurt flashing before the mask slipped back. That's not fair. I love you, Ethan. This. She gestured wildly at the storm. The secrets. It's all noise. We can start clean. Divorce her from this mess. Divorce? The word echoed, thunder punctuating it. Ethan's face crumpled. The boy I'd bandaged after bike wrecks peeking through the man. We're married 2 days. And you're scheming exits. Victor interjected. Oily calm.
Kid. Think.
Adeline's toxic, poison in the soup. Literal and figurative. Walk away now. I'll set you up. Gallery in Soho. Trust fund. Tori's the real deal. I watched Ethan's jaw work. The pull of temptation. Money. Stability, the American dream. Gift wrapped by the devil. But then his gaze met mine. And I saw the flicker. the nights I'd read him Goodnight Moon by flashlight during blackouts. The college rejection letters I'd burned so he wouldn't see. The poor label I'd worn like armor for his sake. "No," he said finally, voice steadying. "I choose truth."
Mom.
We fix this. Together. Relief flooded me, sharp as the rain stinging my skin. But Tori's eyes? They hardened to flint. "You're making a mistake,
Ethan.
She'll drag you down, broke and broken. Just like her." He turned to her, gentle but final. "Then let me fall." With family. Victor grabbed my arm as Ethan stormed inside, Tori trailing with venomous glares. "You win this round,
Addie.
but the war? It's mine. That dashcam?
Real.
And I've got copies, cloud backups, safety deposits. One email to the DA. And you're in orange." Ethan visiting through plexiglass. I wrenched free. Rain blinding. "Touch my son, and your empire crumbles." The senator knows about Tori now. Marlene leaked the DNA prelims to a friendly reporter. Love child links Harrington to Lang scandal. Front page by Labor Day. His face twisted, fear. Fury. The mask of invincibility shattering. "You bitch."
Pot.
Kettle. I backed away. Vespa keys biting into my palm. "Tell your daughter." Game over. The scooter ride back to the dive was a blur, road slick as betrayal. Lightning forking the sky like cracked promises. I holed up with a bottle of Bruegel and bad cable, replaying the standoff. Ethan had chosen me. But at what cost? Tori wouldn't fade quietly. Victor's threats weren't bluster. And the money, the $53 million dragon, still slumbered, waiting to breathe fire. Morning brought ceasefire. Ethan's text. Villa's a zoo. Tori's packing. Flying back tonight. Meet at LaGuardia?
Need to talk.
My reply, yes. Love you. Then Marlene, Lang's lawyering up, stalling. Press is sniffing. Hold the line. The flight home was purgatory, turbulence mirroring my soul. A seatmate droning about crypto crashes. Ethan waited at baggage claim. Hollow-eyed. Tori absent. "She's on the red eye with Victor," he said, hugging me fierce. "Says she needs space to process." We cabbed to my place. The city lights blurring into neon therapy. Over pizza, greasy slices from Sal's. Our ritual, he unloaded. I confronted her on the dock. The lies. The money grab. She admitted.
Parts.
Said it was for us. To build something big. But when I mentioned the inheritance, God.
Mom. Why didn't you tell me?
I sighed. Cheese stringing like regrets. Because it wasn't yours to carry. Beatrice left it for good scholarships, safety nets. Not handouts to fix bad choices. He nodded.
Slow.
I get it. But hiding? It made you small. Like you didn't trust me. The knife twist. I trusted you too much. Feared you'd choose the shine over the shadow. We sat in silence. The hum of the fridge a metronome to our mending. Then, what now? With them? Lawyers and locks, I said. Annulment's clean, fraudulent inducement. Marlene's on it. He cracked a smile. First in days. Your force.
Mom.
Scary? Even. Only for monsters. But monsters multiply. By week's end, the headlines hit. Harrington heiress in heirloom hijinks? The Post. Gleeful with grainy photos of Tori storming JFK. Senator's office spun private matters, but the blogs buzzed. Tori twist trending. Memes of her veil as a noose. Victor went radio silent, burrowing in Florida sand.
Tori.
Though, she struck back. Subpoena via courier. Deposition demand. Citing defamation and emotional distress. Marlene shredded it. Frivolous BS, but the intent was clear. Bleed me dry in discovery. Unearth the tampering truth. Round 4. Counterpunch. I greenlit the full PI dossier to Marlene. Richard's ledgers. Victor's embezzlement trails. Tori's Cayman wires. File civil for fraud, I instructed. And tip the feds anonymously on the tax evasion. Let the IRS be my hitman. Ethan moved back to the brownstone. I'd bought it back quietly 2 years prior, flipping it with foundation funds as a surprise. His shock, priceless.
Mom.
This is ours. Ours, I confirmed, handing him the keys. Start fresh. Gallery dreams. No strings. He hugged me, whispering thanks, but his eyes held shadows. What about you? The money? The real you? I shrugged. Still Adeline. Just with better locks. As autumn crisped the leaves in Prospect Park, the legal tango intensified. Depositions in a glass tower off Park Avenue. Tori, coiffed and composed, swearing she'd never plotted, Victor invoking the fifth like a mantra. Ethan testified neutral. I believed in the marriage, but his crossed arms screamed sides taken. Then the twist, mid-October. A manila envelope at my door. No return. Inside, the dashcam footage grainy.
Damning.
Me at the car, wrench in hand. And a note, call off the dogs, or this goes to NYPD. T. Tori's handwriting. Looped and lethal. Panic clawed. I called Marlene, voice shaking. They've got it. The proof. Burn it, she advised. Plausible deniability. But Ethan.
No.
He stays clean. I torched the drive in the sink, flames licking like accusations. But copies lingered. Viral potential in Victor's vendetta. The holidays loomed. Thanksgiving a minefield. Ethan invited me to his new place. Solo. We roasted a turkey in the brownstone's kitchen. Windows fogged with steam and stories. I filed for annulment, he said. Carving slices. She fought it, claimed consummation voids fraud. But the judge, old school, saw the prenup as a prop. Relief.
Tentative.
And Victor? Ghosted. But I heard. IRS raid on his condo. Yacht seized. Karma's bite. We clinked cider. Toasting survival. But as snow dusted the stoop, my phone buzzed unknown. Video attachment, Tori. Disheveled in a Miami motel, ranting to a webcam. Adeline Harper thinks she's won? That bitch killed her husband, helped him.
Anyway.
And the money? Stolen from my family's legacy. I'll burn it all. Posted to X. Timestamped minutes ago. Widow Wars. Views climbing 50K. 100K. Comments a cesspool. Team Tori, expose the fraud. MIL from hell. Lock her up. Polarization ignited. Talk shows booked Ethan. Betrayed groom speaks. Painting me villain or victim. Depending on the spin. Feminists rallied, moms deserve better. While true crime pods dissected the bridge as gray area euthanasia. I hunkered down. But the hounds bayed. NYPD knock at midnight. MS. Harper? Routine inquiry. Homicide cold case. Victor's leak. Tori's torch. Ethan arrived at dawn. Face ashen.
Mom.
They're coming for you. The video. It's everywhere. I pulled him inside. Door bolting like fate. Then we fight. Together. But deep down, I knew revenge's bill was due. And the collector never knocked politely. The interrogation room at one police plaza smelled of stale coffee and shattered alibis, December chill seeping through cinderblock walls. Detectives Ruiz and Patel, a tag team of skepticism and sympathy, slid photos across the table, the Mercedes wreckage, Richard's coroner report, the wrench from my garage, dusted for prints a decade late. Mrs. Harper, Ruiz said, gum snapping. Your son's video testimony corroborates the emotional context. But the footage?
Damning.
Accomplice. At minimum. Patel leaned in.
Softer.
Manslaughter statutes run 10 years. But obstruction? Fresh wound if Lang's claims stick. I sipped vending machine water.
Steady.
Mercy killing. He wanted out. I granted it. Ruiz's brow arched. Vigilante euthanasia? Juries eat that up in Netflix docs. Not court. Marlene burst in then. Heels clicking judgment. My client invokes counsel. No further statements. She glared daggers. And that footage? Chain of custody breach, anonymous drop. Suppression motion filed. They released me on my own recognizance. But the cuffs of public opinion chafed. X exploded. Adeline confessed trending. Death threats pinging my inbox. Supporters doxing Tori's hideouts. Ethan fielded calls from producers. True crime gold. While I ghosted into the brownstone basement, sifting Beatrice's letters for solace. One line burned. Fortune's a curse.
Addie.
Use it to heal. Not harm. Too late. The climax brewed. Tori's civil suit trial. Set for January in federal court. Fraud versus extortion. A circus of suits and subpoenas. New Year's Eve. Ethan and I watched the ball drop from the roof. Fireworks masking our fears. I sold the gallery idea to a collector, he said. Seed money from. Well, you know. I smiled faintly. Proud of you.
But Mom.
The trial. If they prove the tampering, they won't.
Bluff.
But necessary. Inside. Terror gnawed. Prison meant losing him again. January dawned bitter. The courthouse a fortress of marble and malice. Tori took the stand first. A phoenix in red. Remorseful. Radiant. I'm married for love, she testified. Tears glistening. Adeline's vendetta destroyed it. Poison. Blackmail. Murder cover-up. I just wanted a family. Gasps from the gallery. Sketches already viral. Victor followed. Fifth and G on finances, but spilling on the bridge. She did it. I have proof. Witness the aftermath. My turn. Cross-exam. Marlene prepping me like a boxer. Stick to truth. Humanize the mercy. I faced the jury, blue-collar mix. Faces etched with their own ghosts. Richard was suicidal. Broken by betrayal. Victor's theft pushed him there.
I
eased his pain. For our son. The inheritance? I've given millions away anonymously to families like mine. Tori and Victor? They sought to steal it for silence. Murmurs. Then the twist. Prosecution star witness, a forensic expert Victor hired. But under oath. He cracked. The footage?
Doctored.
Timestamps off by hours. Paid me 20 grand to certify it clean. Pandemonium. Judge banged gavel. Victor lunged. Tackled by bailiffs. Tori shrieked.
Daddy.
No. The jury deliberated 2 days. Deliberate. Divided. Verdict: mistrial on the homicide statute. But fraud against Tori and Victor, guilty. Restitution: $5 million from the Cayman pot. Frozen pending appeal. Outside. Flashes popped like gunfire. Ethan hugged me, whispering, "We did it." But as confetti swirled in the wind, Tori caught my eye across the scrum, handcuffs glinting, mouth twisted in a snarl that promised sequels. "This isn't over, Adeline." I nodded.
Silent.
Because in Revenge's theater, curtains close, but encores lurk. Spring thawed New York like a reluctant forgive and forget. Cherry blossoms papering the sidewalks in pink denial. The brownstone bloomed, too, Ethan's canvases leaning against walls. Splashes of cobalt and crimson bleeding into our rebuild. The trial's fallout lingered like cigar smoke, Victor in white-collar lockup upstate, awaiting sentencing on wire fraud, Tori under house arrest in a midtown co-op, her socialite glow dimmed to ankle monitor pallor. The senator? Re-election toast. Scandal sizzling like overcooked steak.
Me?
Cleared, but scarred. The DA dropped the tampering probe. Insufficient evidence. Marlene crowed, but the whispers clung. Black widow with a bankroll. X had moved on to the next circus. But neighbors eyed me at the bodega, wondering if my coffee runs hit hemlock. Ethan threw himself into the gallery, Harper House. A nod to ghosts we'd exorcised. Opening night in May was electric, Soho loft pulsing with indie darlings and collectors in ironic teas. Prosecco flowing freer than truths at the wedding. I hovered at the edges. Black dress swapped for a midi and emerald, color of new starts. Or envy unresolved. Mom. You came, Ethan beamed. Tux unbuttoned. Paint flecks on his cuffs. Meet Lena, the curator. She's obsessed with your anonymous benefactor story. Lena. A pixie with tattoos peeking from her blazer.
Pumped my hand.
The scholarships? Life-changing. Kids from Bed-Stuy crediting Aunt B in their MFAs. You're a legend. I flushed, deflecting. Just a conduit. Beatrice's ghost does the heavy lifting. As the crowd thinned, Ethan pulled me to a quiet corner, overlooking the fire escapes twinkling like urban stars. I sold 3 pieces. Enough for rent, and then some. Proud doesn't cover it, I said, clinking plastic cups. You built this from ashes. His smile faltered. Yeah.
But.
Tori emailed. Through her lawyer.
Wants to talk.
Closure, she says. The name landed like a sucker punch, bruised tender months on. Closure? Or checkmate? He shrugged. Boyish uncertainty. I don't know.
Part of me
misses the dream. Not her.
Exactly.
The what if? I nodded, swallowing advice. Dreams die hard. But corpses? They stink forever. He laughed, hugged me. Wise as ever. Love you, Mom.
Love.
The word anchored me through the subway ride home. A train rattling like unresolved chords. But sleep evaded. Tori's ghost pacing my dreams, raven hair. Blue eyes plotting. The meeting was set for neutral ground, a midtown cafe. Marlene chaperoning. Recorder discreet in my bag. June humidity pressed like guilt. Iced lattes sweating on the Formica. Tori arrived late. ankle bracelet chafing under capris. Her once lustrous locks in a ponytail that screamed rehab chic. "Adeline," she said, sliding into the booth. No handshake. Just a stare that could curdle cream. "You look prosperous." Marlene cleared her throat. "Let's keep it civil." "MS. Harrington, state your piece." Tori's lips thinned.
Fine.
"Ethan, my ex. Whatever, deserves peace. Victor's rotting. I'm collateral."
But you won.
"The money. The martyr medal. I just want
Out.
clean." I arched a brow. "Out? Like the prenup clause you buried." She flushed, glancing at the bracelet. "That was survival. Daddy," Victor pushed. "Said you'd cave. Like Richard. Richard caved because your kind, broke him." Voice low, venom-laced. Her eyes flashed. "And you saved him? With a wrench? Don't saint yourself."
Adeline.
"We're both monsters, me for scheming, you for swinging." Marlene interjected. Allegations noted. "But legally." "Legally?" Tori laughed.
Sharp.
"I've got nothing left. Sell my sob story to Dateline? Heiress humbled by humble MIL?
Please. Just.
Release the feds' hold on my trust. I'll sign the NDA. Vanish to Vancouver or some shithole." The ask hung.
Tempting.
Mercy Redux. But then her hand slid across the table. A USB drive. Matte black. "One last play. Watch it. Then decide." Back home. Door locked triple time. I plugged it in. Footage, not the bridge. But Beatrice's deathbed, hospital dim. Monitors beeping like accusations. Her voice. Frail. Addie. "The money. Not for charity. For Richard's sins.
He.
Embezzled from me." Victor covered.
But you. Paid back.
Or it's blood money. My world tilted. Beatrice knew? The inheritance of a restitution trap. Bait to atone or expose. I'd given millions away. But the core? Tainted. Richard's theft. My cover. Circular debt. Tori's note taped to the drive. Your secret safe. For a price. $20 million wire. Or it airs. Twist, I'm pregnant. Ethan's? Who knows? But the scandal? Yours forever. The gut punch, double me over. Pregnant. Leverage incarnate. And the twist, she'd flipped again, not villain, but victim, carrying my grandchild. Or Victor's ploy, debatable, divisive, readers, jurors. The world would split. Forgive the fallen. Or fry the fraud. I paced, phone in hand. Call Ethan? Confess the blood money? Or wire it? By silence. Bury deeper? Dawn crept in. Gray as compromise. I texted Tori. Meet at the bridge.
Noon.
Solo. The Hamptons span arched over fog-kissed water. Same as that night, tires humming like heartbeats. Tori arrived in a rental Beamer. Belly not yet showing. But her stance wary. What is this? Showdown at Sunset Gulch. I leaned on the rail. Wind whipping my coat. Truth time. The drive. Beatrice's words. She knew about Richard. The money's poison. I've tried to launder it in good, but it sticks. Tori's eyes widened, then narrowed. So? Pay up. Or I drop the bomb. Heiress exposes killer widow's crooked cash. And the baby? I pressed. Ethan's? She hesitated, crack in the armor. Maybe. We tried. Before the shitstorm. Tess says yes. But him knowing? With your mess? He'd bolt. Empathy flickered. Unwanted. Then walk. No wire. I'll fund the kid, anonymous. Like always. Fresh start. Vancouver. Nanny. The works. She laughed. Disbelieving.
Why?
After everything? Because I've been you, cornered.
Clawing.
Richard.
The debts.
I schemed too. No one's clean. Wind howled. Waves crashing below like applause for absolution. She searched my face. The mask melting. You're serious?
Deadly.
I extended a hand, not wrench, but olive branch. She took it.
Tentative.
Truce. Truce. Weeks blurred. $5 million to a family trust for the baby. NDA ironclad. Tori vanished north. Radio silent.
Ethan?
I held the pregnancy close. Andy Adeline's spin.
For now.
The gallery thrived. He dated a sculptor. Light returning to his laugh. But the final twist? September equinox. A package at the door. Tori's handwriting. Inside, the original will. Beatrice's codicil. To Adeline. Forgive the debt. Heal. Forged? No. Authenticated by a notary stamp. She'd known.
But freed me anyway.
Tori's note. Blood money's a myth. Yours now. For the kid and Ethan. Don't fuck it up.
T.
I burned the codicil. Ashes scattering on the wind. Happy? Tragic? You decide. In America, revenge ends not with a bang, but a balance sheet, credits and debits, where villains become kin, and mercy's the real score. Ethan called that night. Mom? Dinner? Got news. Spill, I said, smiling into the receiver. A little Harper on the way. Tori reached out, wants co-parenting. Crazy. Right?
Crazy.
Controversial. Complete. Right, I echoed. Family's what we make it, and for once, the poor girl from Queens believed it.